There's a really interesting prediction making the rounds. The idea that a $500 billion wave of cash could be intentionally pumped into the US market in 2026. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly where that idea comes from, the claims behind it, and what it could all mean.
Okay, so the core of this whole thing is a pretty bold claim, right? A plan to just flood the market with liquidity in 2026. And it supposedly all starts with this massive, unprecedented wave of tax refunds. The big question is, how could that even work? All right, so let's dig into that first wave. The entire forecast really hinges on a statement that's attributed to former President Trump. He's quoted as promising, and this is a quote, the largest tax refund season of all time.
Now, the argument here is that this isn't just political talk. The claim is apparently backed by officials who are projecting hundreds of billions more in refunds than we've ever seen in a single year. I mean, that's a huge jump.
And that right there brings us to the big headline number. The high-end estimate for this single refund season is a staggering $500 billion. Just think about that. That's a massive amount of capital that could potentially hit the economy all at once.
So the natural question is, how in the world would this flood even happen? Well, the theory isn't based on just one thing. It's actually built on 5 different policy ideas, all designed to pump cash right into the system. Okay, so these are the 5 key drivers in this forecast. Now, for our purposes, we're really going to zero in on the 3 biggest ones that are presented. Those massive tax refunds, a totally new kind of investment account, and a pretty big shift in how the government invests. And it all kicks off with how those tax refunds are supposed to work.
So this table here, this is basically the proposed engine for the whole refund idea. The claim is that these 7 key tax provisions were made retroactive for all of 2025. But, and you got to get this is the crucial part, the payroll withholding tables, the money taken out of your paycheck, were never actually changed to reflect this. What does that mean? It means millions of workers would have effectively been overpaying their taxes all year long, which sets the stage for a massive lump sum refund come tax season.
All right, the second driver is this proposed program called Trump accounts. The idea is that these would be government-started brokerage accounts for kids, kicking off with a $1,000 contribution. But here's the kicker. The money has to be invested in funds that track U.S. stock indexes. So it's not just giving people money, it's a direct pipeline of cash into the stock market.
Then we have a third source of cash, and this one comes from a proposed shift toward what's being called American state capitalism. Basically, this would mean the government itself starts acting like a big-time investor. We're talking taking direct stakes in tech companies, having controlling shares in strategic assets like U.S. Steel, and even holding on to seized Bitcoin as a national reserve instead of just selling it off. It's a whole different way of thinking.
Okay, so you've got all this potential money sloshing around. The big, obvious question is, what would that actually do to the market? Well, to try and answer that, the forecast draws a direct line to something we all remember very, very well, the COVID-19 stimulus back in 2020. Now, looking at the numbers, you can see the projected refund is smaller than the total COVID stimulus, but it's still being presented as a big market-moving event. Why is that? Because the key, according to this theory, isn't just the total amount, but where the money goes. Research showed that about $100 billion from that first stimulus round went directly into the stock market. I mean, that's pure rocket fuel. And just look at what happened after that 2020 stimulus. It was followed by one of the most explosive tech rallies we have seen in a long, long time. I mean, these numbers are absolutely staggering. So the question being raised here pretty clearly is, if a similar cash injection happens again, could we see history rhyme? Okay, so let's follow that line of thinking. If this money does hit the market, where is it all going to go? The forecast doesn't just stop at if this happens, it goes a step further and tries to pinpoint the where, identifying 6 specific sectors that could, potentially, really benefit. So here they are. These 6 key sectors that are highlighted. You've got robotics, AI infrastructure, biotech, energy, specifically nuclear, cybersecurity, and rare earth minerals. The argument is that each of these has a reason it could benefit from these policies. So let's break down the thinking here, starting with AI infrastructure. First up, AI infrastructure. And this is built on a really powerful claim that the capital spending by the tech giants, your Googles, your Metas, is projected to hit almost $600 billion in 2026. The argument is that this spending, all by itself, is becoming a primary engine for the entire economy. And this really shows you the whole ecosystem that's in play here. It's not just about the big-name chip makers like NVIDIA. The argument goes way deeper. to the companies that provide the networking, the custom silicon, the absolutely critical cooling systems, and even the real estate, the physical buildings that this whole AI revolution is being built on. Okay, next up is robotics. And to give you an idea of just how big this market could be, the forecast points to a pretty wild quote for Elon Musk. He suggests that the value of a single general-purpose humanoid robot could be absolutely gargantuan, potentially worth more than the entire electric vehicle market. I mean, that's a huge statement. The analysis then breaks the robotics world down into all these different areas. So beyond just the big idea of humanoid robots, it points to very specific uses, like in healthcare with surgical robots, in logistics with automated warehouses, these collaborative cobots that work alongside humans, and even the machine vision systems, the tech that basically acts as the eyes for all these machines. And finally, the forecast wraps up its outlook with these last 4 sectors, and each one has its own specific reason for being on the list. Cybersecurity demand, well, that's tied directly to the AI boom. Nuclear energy is seen as pretty much essential to power all those new AI data centers. Biotech, they say, is coming out of a destocking cycle, basically running through old inventory. And rare earths are all about the big push for American mineral independence. So, okay, we've just broken down all these different policies, these predictions, these sectors. What's the single biggest takeaway from all of it? What's the main idea? Well, the entire forecast really boils down to one central thesis. And here it is. The ultimate argument being made here is that the entire economic system, fundamentally, is designed to benefit people who own assets, whether that's stocks, real estate, or any other kind of investment. So the conclusion is, if you want to benefit from these potential shifts, you have to be positioned not just as a worker, not just as a consumer, but as an owner. So what we've done here is distill the claims from one very specific and very forward-looking forecast. And look, whether any of these predictions actually happen or not, it leaves us with a really fundamental question about the relationship between what the government does and how the market performs. And that question is, can policy truly engineer a bull market? And maybe more importantly, what are the consequences if it tries?